Go ahead and officially kick us off. I kind of did the intro and welcomed everybody, and I'm just so excited to be able to do this program with Evol, our Associate Program Director. She started with us in November of 2006. So this November, Evol is with us 15 years. She oversees all of our education programs as well as our Jumpstart program. So Evol, welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, education experience, anything that you'd like to share.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Welcome, everyone. Well, I have my bachelor's degree in social work and my master's degree in public administration with a concentration in nonprofits. Prior to New Ground, I worked with homeless families and other struggling individuals for approximately 15 years. I started at New Ground as the education coordinator, overseeing all of the education programs, including the Reading All-Star program, tutoring, education advocacy program, education assistance program, and others. I became the associate program director in early 2014 and became the backup to our executive director. I am passionate about helping anyone in need, but I'm specifically passionate about helping families and youth to succeed. All they need are the right tools and support. I recently served on the advisory board of Operation Get Ahead. It's an organization that works with at-risk youth in Freeport, Roosevelt, and Hempstead School District. I was also asked to join the board of directors of OurTimeForLongIsland.org. This is another organization that provides college scholarships to students who are interested in pursuing a degree in the arts.
Well, Evol, we are very lucky to have you here with us at New Ground, and Evol just brings a tremendous amount of experience and know-how with her to the work that she does here. She's so well connected in the communities around us and the different community-based organizations. It always amazes me how many people know Evol and how many things that Evol knows about. So we're really so grateful to have you, Evol, all these years. Here at New Ground, our motto is "We educate, we empower." What does that mean to you?
So we educate, we empower means providing the tools, but also even more critical, the pathways to help our clients continue their education programs and dreams. It is also about students of all ages, both parents as well as children, and helping students to succeed and to see that they have options and choices, and then providing the help needed to achieve their goals. It is empowering our families with the knowledge, skills, and self-confidence necessary to change their lives for the better through the education process. New Ground is helping clients to be more open to new ideas and experiences. This is the idea of empowering our parents and youth and children to live more positively with ideas of new ways to be successful.
Thanks, Evol. So also, not a lot of people know that almost from the very beginning, New Ground has worked really closely with various Long Island school districts to advocate for homeless students and families, as well as educate the school personnel on the federal guidelines that protect homeless students and make sure that they have equal opportunity for education. Can you tell us, please, what this work is about?
Yes, so New Ground is contracted with a few districts in Nassau County, as well as other districts who have no contracts with us, but they've also sought our assistance in dealing with homeless students and families. So we provide the education advocacy for any homeless students in the district. In addition, I work with school personnel to educate them on the federal laws governing the education rights of homeless children and youth. I often lead professional trainings with school personnel, This is to ensure that everyone understands how to help our homeless students. Over the past many years, I've helped numerous families and students through this program. An example of this is Brian. So Brian and his family were identified by New Ground as being displaced in the Uniondale School District. I work with the family providing education-related services. Brian then graduated high school and wanted to attend college. However, his mother's immigration status made this very difficult. New Ground assisted Brian by completing his FAFSA form. I also helped him to apply to several local colleges. He was accepted into Nassau, Farmingdale, and Queens College. Brian started school at Farmingdale, but was left with a $2,000 bill after his first semester because of issues with financial aid. We wanted to help Brian keep his dream of college alive, so I advised him of job opportunities.
Thank you.
A local company. He applied and began working there almost immediately. He quickly earned enough to pay off a $2,000 debt and then purchase a vehicle. He's now back in college and is pursuing a career in accounting. We also help provide the same type of education service to students who are in our long-term housing program, our Jumpstart program, and our veteran program. This includes helping parents and adult students advocate for special education services when appropriate and any other education-related needs.
Evol, this is just a huge part of the work that you do for so many years. Brian is just one example of a student that you helped. What's it like for you to go through that experience of helping a family or a student navigate all the difficulties that might get in their way of being successful in their education path?
Well, it's a great experience because it's not only empowering the family, but it's also a great experience for me in learning, what's necessary and what's needed for each of our family and individuals that we're serving. So Brian, for example, was a great tool for me to learn a great deal more about higher education and what's necessary in order for a student to be able to afford college.
Yes. Yeah. So I apologize, everybody, and that's having to do a little bit of juggling. Evol is now actually the host officially, and I don't want to ask her to have to do this, but if everybody could mute your lines, we're getting some background noise from a couple of people that aren't on mute. That would be really helpful if you could go ahead and just mute your lines. Thank you so much. Evol, can you tell us about some of the education programs that are happening on site here at New Ground? I talked earlier about how we had to move to remote for COVID, but we came back online in person on site this month of September. Could you tell us about the on-site programs that are happening now?
Yes. So we have the Birmingham Family Reading All-Star Program. This is an online computerized reading program. It is tailored specifically to each student's grade and reading level. It aims to enhance various silent reading skills and improve overall reading comprehension. The program tests each student to determine his or her specific grade level. It then creates an individualized program for each student. This allows every student to work at their own pace to improve their reading scores and overall reading skills. Each student received individualized assistance by a New Ground tutor in targeted areas where the student is struggling. We meet twice per week on site at New Ground. This program has helped many students, but the most significant is probably Ty. He was 9 years old when the family entered our long-term housing program. They became displaced after domestic violence issues and then a house fire. He was very behind in school and reading 3 grade levels below his peers. He worked with a New Ground tutor twice per week, completing the reading program steadily. In the beginning, he struggled and was not interested. Following all he had been through, he was diagnosed with selective mutism. He would only speak in settings where he felt safe, like with his family. He was otherwise mute. Before long, he began to talk a little in the reading program and then became very engaged with his tutors and other students. Within a few years, Ty had caught up to his peers and then surpassed his grade reading level. By high school, he began providing tutoring to students struggling in chemistry. He has since completed his bachelor's degree in construction management at SUNY Delhi, and he's doing well.
Shannon, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I followed my own advice and muted myself. So I was just saying, Evol, thank you for sharing Ty's incredible story with us. And clearly there was a really big impact on this young man. What was it like for you to watch this happen over the years?
Well, we started working with Ty when he was in elementary school. So seeing the growth and the progress was incredible. I had the opportunity to visit him in school and to attend his CSE meetings, his Committee in Special Education, because he had special education needs, and to see him not only surpass his reading level and other students, but being able to graduate successfully with a bachelor's degree is incredible. I still have one of his awards that he gave to me when he was in high school that's sitting in my office. And the great thing is that this family has maintained contact with us. So it's a great experience.
Thank you, Evol. So can you tell us a little bit about the New Ground Tutoring Program?
Okay, so the tutoring program is also an on-site program, and students are able to receive subject-specific and grade-specific tutoring, as well as homework assistance and assistance with special projects. It also provides accommodations to students with special needs. We also assist with test preparation, including Common Core, New York State Regents exams, and entrance exams for colleges and other higher education programs. Prior to COVID, tutoring has taken place on-site at New Ground, at local libraries and in the homes. During COVID, we were able to provide tutoring via video conferencing. I'm very happy that we could bring tutoring back on site this month. A family that was significantly helped by our tutoring program is a family with 6 children. Mom was extremely overwhelmed. The family, of course, was displaced for more than 4 years. She was a single mom and was working to move her family out of the shelter and into permanent housing. The youngest of the 6 children were 6-year-old twins with absolutely no education experience. They have never been to pre-K or kindergarten. They could not read or identify letters in their names or numbers. We assisted with getting the children enrolled in school so they could attend kindergarten. We also requested education testing. They work with our tutor twice per week, learning letters, numbers, and other basics. They struggled initially with learning. After a couple of months of work with one of our dedicated tutors, they could identify letters and write their names. They were moved up to the 1st grade partway through the school year after showing great progress. So they are now in the correct grade level. The twins generally loved being in school and attending their after-school program at their school, as well as coming here to New Ground for tutoring twice per week.
Really interesting, Evol. I think for many to hear that there would be children turning 6 years old who don't know the alphabet is a shock. I mean, I have almost 2-year-old son, and he's already recognizing half his letters in the alphabet. it's just really hard to imagine. What was that like? What was this experience like for you?
Well, it was unusual, but this isn't the only family that's homeless that struggles with, their children not having the necessary education experience. We find that a great deal of our families are placed in hotels, motels, and shelters, and being able to afford daycare that provides education setting, that's an education setting, our background is generally not affordable or not where they're able to travel on a daily basis to get their students to and from those settings. And it's also very difficult getting into some of those settings where students who is 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old is able to go into these settings and have the foundation for school. So unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. However, it's not unusual for us to hear. The great thing is that, we were able to identify the need and address the need that those children have. And when last reported, they're doing well.
Definitely, Evol. I think that it's pretty terrific to hear that they went into school, a year behind. Basically, they should have been in first grade. They had to start in kindergarten because of where they were at. But partway through the school year, they were already bumped up to first grade. So clearly, they were catching up and learning quickly, which is good to hear. And certainly, we know that daycare is always a challenge for our homeless families. And, it runs around all sorts of issues as far as parent schedules with work, and if they need a program before school and then during school, they're in that, and then after school, sometimes those things aren't available for pre-K and kindergarten programs. And so families must sort of sacrifice their children's education and place them in a full-time daycare program that then isn't providing the education background and experience that those young minds really need to have. So another significant, or the other significant education program here at New Ground is our Education Assistance Program. Can you tell us about this one?
Yes, so the Education Assistance Program was designed to help students of all ages overcome the many barriers that could prevent them from completing school successfully. In addition to helping provide school supplies and other concrete items to our students, the program also helped with college and vocational prep, researching education program, exploring various school options and costs. We also help with FAFSA application, completing other documents to secure financial aid for school, accessing financial aid awards, and determining gaps in aid, and in determining the affordability of school option based on the financial aid that they will receive. We also work on planning for future repayments. We provide education assessments for all of our students. This includes cognitive testing to determine our document learning disability that will impact overall academic success. We then use this information to help our families advocate for additional services if needed in their education setting. This not only includes lower grades in high school, but college and vocational settings as well. Someone who is currently benefiting from the Education Assistance Program is Susan. She's a single mother of a 7-year-old boy. She works full-time as a certified nursing assistant and is in school to obtain her Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree. Susan was homeless when she first began working with us. She was then placed in transitional housing where she paid reduced rent and had a bit more privacy and independence. Last fall, she officially moved into her own market value rent apartment. We helped Susan with many aspects of her life, but specifically under the Education Assistance Program, we provided assessments and evaluation to help her in deciding on a career track and education program. We helped her to apply to school, prepare for an entrance exam, and completed her FAFSA paperwork. Once she was accepted, I helped her understand and access her financial aid. While she has been in school, we provided school supplies. This includes specialized uniforms and other key items for our college nursing program. When it was clear that financial aid would not cover all of her costs, I helped her with researching and applying for various scholarships. She recently was notified that she was awarded one of these scholarships and is receiving $5,000. Actually, tomorrow she'll be going drive upstate in order to receive her scholarship. She's currently working on her thank you speech. This $5,000 will help her cover tuition and other costs associated with being in school. Also, at times, Susan has not had family help with her son when needed, and she wasn't able to miss school or work, and she could not afford daycare. So we were also able to help her cover the daycare costs to ensure that she's able to continue her nursing degree. Last year, she made the dean's list, and she earned an A in her summer session course. She's back in school for the fall and is loving her nursing program.
That's terrific, Evol. I know, being a part of someone's life like Susan and being able to help her overcome all of those barriers to reaching her goals and helping her really achieve her dreams is a tremendous thing to be a part of. You've been here for 15 years at New Ground, and before that, you were in the human services field for a long time. You interact with a lot of other organizations in the community. How would you say that New Ground is different? Or how does New Ground operate in comparison to some of those other organizations that you've had experience with?
I'd say the major issue is that New Ground looks at the total individual. New Ground isn't just addressing homelessness. New Ground is addressing any other services that's necessary to ensure success. So we're looking at education, we're looking at budgeting, we're looking at credit scores, we're looking at everything that's necessary to ensure that this family doesn't fall back into homelessness and is also able to then become successful. So I'd say the major difference is that we are not just looking at one small aspect of this individual or this family. We're looking at the total family and whatever is needed or whatever needs to be in place to ensure success.
Thank you, Evol. So I know I've got some questions that came through in the chat box that I'm also going to ask Evol, and then if other people have questions, I'll go through these and then ask for you to raise your hand or wave, and we'll have you ask some as well. So first one, Evol, what grade levels can participate in the online reading program?
Okay, so the online reading program is designed for 3rd through 12th graders, but we've also used the program to test adults who are in the program to determine where they are academically, to have a better idea of their reading skills and to help us in determining what their next steps should be academically or vocationally.
That's great. I would imagine it's really helpful because a lot of the adults may not have been in school for a while. And even though they might have a high school diploma, we know from many years of work with our families that sometimes we have people with a high school diploma that are reading on a 6th grade level or a 7th grade level because they were passed through school and graduated even though they couldn't necessarily meet the standards. Evol, another question. Are there more homeless students now than before COVID?
Yes, we've noticed an increase in the number of homeless families and students. COVID impacted many people's employment, and being out of work meant that they could not afford rent or the housing that they were in. So there's definitely an increase.
That's interesting because I think, most of us know from the news and whatnot that there's been an eviction moratorium in place since really early on in the COVID pandemic. So that eviction moratorium made it illegal for landlords to evict families, and certainly the courts weren't hearing any cases. So how did these families become homeless during that time?
Well, unfortunately, not all of these families knew the law. And when the landlord comes and asks for the rent or demand the rent, they felt that they had to leave, so they left. So by the time they learned of the law, it was too late, and they had nowhere to go but to social services, where they were placed in a hotel or shelter.
Wow. And I'm sure they've been there ever since, because we know housing has continued to be a big challenge. Another question here, what was one of the biggest challenges that our students faced during COVID?
Well, keeping up with their schoolwork was a big challenge. Working remotely was very difficult. Our student lacked internet resources and technology that was needed. New Ground helped to get internet, laptops, and other devices. However, there were often long delays and gaps in time. Our parents also didn't have the time or ability to monitor their children closely. Many were in lower paying positions or jobs, and they did not have the luxury of working from home. But overall, all students simply did not learn as much as they could have in the classroom setting. Many fell behind, but so did their permanently housed peers. Now the challenge is trying to get them caught up. This is a huge effort now for all schools and teachers. Research is now showing that most students fell behind in math and reading. Our New Ground students will have the additional supports that we provide to help bridge the gap and to help them get caught up sooner than later.
At New Ground, Evol, we saw many of our parents opt for remote learning all or most of last year, even though many schools were open for in-person learning, at least for part of the student body. This decision was difficult to make, but many of our families saw larger numbers of their family members and friends and others in their communities becoming seriously ill and or dying of COVID. These are primarily families of color who we work with. We have a disproportionate number of families of color that are living in poverty and that are homeless in Nassau and Suffolk counties. So we know that statistically it's been shown that communities of color, people of color, have higher rates of COVID as well as death from the virus. So remote learning didn't just affect the academics of our students, with children being at home for that extra year, they were impacted in many ways. Can you tell us a little bit about how our students suffered socially or in other ways by not having in-person learning last year?
Yes, the loss of social interaction was significant for our students. Most of their social learning happens at school or in after-school programs. The use of Zoom or other tools for learning meant that they didn't have the same social interaction. An example of sixth grader, the families in our long-term housing program, Jean had to do remote learning because her sister had health issues. We began noticing that Jane was suffering from not being able to interact with children of her own age. She started showing signs of depression. She became very quiet and withdrawn. She was secretive at times and was hard to engage. She has always done well in school, but we noticed that her grades were dropping and she was often not engaged with the teacher or the class on Zoom. Her New Ground social worker tried to secure therapy for her with an outside clinic, but the wait times are extremely long. In the meantime, New Ground arranged for her to have weekly sessions with one of our social work interns on Zoom. They developed a very strong connection, and Jane began to open up about how she was feeling. After meeting for a couple months, the intern helped her with sharing her thoughts and feelings with her mom and others in her life to help her feel more connected. Jane passed the school year, although her grades were lower than before. She and her sister were able to return to on-site school for the last 2 months of the year, which made a huge difference.
Thanks, Evol. So it looks like we got through the questions that were in the chat box, and that also then created some additional questions in my mind. Evol, any other sort of thoughts or things that you want to share? And then I noticed Gary just raised his hand with a question.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're back in session, which is great. We've been looking forward to this for almost 2 years. Our tutors and students are excited, and we're looking forward to the hard work that will now be a part of being able to get students back on grade level.
Gary, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask Evol, do you have all of the hardware and software things that you need to do the programs? And do you have a wish list of if you could get something that you really think would be helpful or would improve, what would that be?
Well, we definitely have a wish list for laptops right now. During COVID, which is still happening, one of the ways that we were able to assist our families was to provide them with laptops. And most of our reading program laptops were given to our families. So we definitely could use additional laptops. As far as the reading program itself, it's online, everything is in place. There's nothing specific to go with that program. We're looking forward to, once we have more of a full house, to begin testing our students again and to get that going.
So we can buy the laptops, can't we? I mean, what's preventing us from buying the laptops?
I think we're inventorying right now, Gary, and getting a sense of the need. Because the other thing that's happened over the last couple of years is that some school districts, I think Freeport, Evol, is one of them, are providing all of their students with laptops. Mm-hmm. So we had some students that were coming from some school districts that were bringing their own laptops, and then they could use them for homework and whatnot. And that was like a school district wide program, certainly in some districts. That everybody got them. So we're trying to get a sense of inventory and who has what and how many do we need. And then like in the past, what we've gotten are the Google Chromebooks, which tend to be really affordable. There's not a lot of memory on them, but that's not a big issue for us because they just need to be able to get online, to get on the reading program site, and then be utilized by the students when they're here.
Okay. Yeah, I know the Garden City schools use the Chromebooks and all the students have those, but yeah, whatever we need, we should definitely provide to Evol so that she could, make sure the program works the best that it can. Great,
thank you.
Evol, do you have a sense of school districts this year that are doing all students have laptops off the top of your head? Are there any new school districts that are now doing that post-COVID?
I'm really not sure. I know specifically with Freeport and Westbury and Uniondale as well, all students are given laptops, but I think it began in middle school to high school. The lower grades were not given laptops.
Okay, so then that makes sense too, because for the students that are in the lower grades, we definitely want to have on hand some laptops here. Any other questions for Ed McDougall? I see you've got your hand up.
First, Evol, you know how much I admire you. You're like our silent weapon, But anyway, just great job. One of the questions I have is that I know we use social work interns on a fairly regular basis. I know Selena's been doing a lot of work and supervising them and helping them grow. Do we ever take interns that are specifically oriented towards what your strengths are? Whether that be administration or, running the different kinds of programs that you run. Do we ever bring in interns that are oriented in that direction?
I don't think we have. I think we have had volunteers who have come and spent a couple months or so with us, but specifically interns in this area, no, I don't believe so. Shannon might be better able to answer that, but from my experience, I'm not aware of having that.
I think it's a little bit of a structuring difference. So like this summer, we had an intern college student that Evol supervised, and that was really working closely with Evol on screening for our Jumpstart program. But it wasn't a school connected internship program for that in the structured way that Selena, as a licensed social worker, is securing social work interns from local bachelor and master level social work programs, and then the students are receiving credit to do their internships here, and they have a set number of hours that they need to do through the year. I think, with Evol, it's been on a more informal basis. It's definitely something interesting to think about, Ed, as far as Evol, with your master's degree, the master's degree program that you did, are there programs, other programs locally for that degree that require internships, and maybe there's an opportunity there to seek out an intern in a structured way. Yeah, Selena, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes. So I think what's really cool, and hopefully this partially answers the question, is that social workers, we take social work interns, and social workers can then go into a wide variety of fields, one of them being social work administration. So Evol's talents are not lost on the student interns that we have. And what's cool about our agency is, because we are so small, it's such a team approach that the students here get to learn from Evol just as much as they learn from me or Shannon or anyone else. So a lot of times Evol will be considered a task supervisor for one of the students in a social work meeting that I'm not in. So she will run the meeting, and the students will get to learn from her. And another huge aspect of social work is advocacy. So there have been times where students are on the phone with Evol while she's making a phone call to a school to advocate for a family in that realm. So the students here get that knowledge from Evol just as much as they get other social work experience. So I just think that's really cool, and hopefully answers the question partially.
Great points. Great points, Selena. And I'm just conscious of time. I realize it's just a few minutes before 1, and this is an hour program, and we know many of you are joining us during your lunch hour, and we really appreciate you tuning in. So I don't know if there's any other pressing questions, comments, thoughts that anybody wants to throw out there. Certainly wave or raise your hand, and we'll be happy to call on you. Chris, yes.
I was just going to get on the back of Gary's point earlier. If there are sort of like minimum standards and things like that for laptops to be donated or gifted to the program, please let us know those, and we can either find some that are around our houses, or we can try to source from some sources that we know. I think that would, if that's a way that we can help, I think we can certainly try to do something in that space.
That's great, Chris. Yes, thank you. And we certainly have utilized refurbished laptops in the past. Actually, for many years, all of us here at Newground were running on refurbished laptops that were donated through Capital One Bank. because their professionals get upgraded laptops like every year and a half or 2 years. So they have a whole batch that are in like great condition that they're trying to find homes for. And so we utilize them to upgrade our computer system at Newgrounds. It wasn't brand new, but it was new to us, and it was certainly a lot higher functioning than what we had. And it meant that we didn't have to spend those funds. So I would say laptops are definitely something we can accept. I would say, relatively recent, I would, anything maybe 5 years or older is probably going to be too outdated to do what they need. Cleaned off. That was another great thing about the Capital One refurbish program, was that they like cleaned the whole thing off and erased everything, and then also put the key programs on there like Microsoft Word or whatnot. Those aren't as critical now because the kids are all in Google Docs and they're using the whole Google system for their work, but definitely we can happily accept laptops. And the reason why we say laptops as opposed to desktops, I'll just clarify, is that, especially these days with COVID and social distancing aspects, like we're trying to spread students out and have them in different areas in the 2 conference rooms that we use. So being able to move the computers is really helpful. If it's a desktop and it's set, in one place, it makes it a little bit more challenging. Evol, Steve has a comment.
Chris, did you want to finish up, or you had? You're good. Okay. Hey, thank you, Evol. I just wanted 2 things. One, just want to echo Ed's comments about how thrilled we are that with your work and what you do here, and I'm really glad we had the chance to kind of highlight it today, because it's something that really needs to have the light shown on it. And I like the story about how during COVID the one intern was able to work with a student and kind of help her through. For all of the students that we worked with, a question, I don't know if it's 15 or 20 students or whatever the number was over the past year and a half. If we weren't around, how far further behind do you think they might have fallen? Or in general, would they all have kind of fallen much further behind if we weren't here to kind of help them along on the side?
Oh, absolutely. Just the advocacy work alone with the school district during COVID to ensure that they had the necessary tools. If we weren't around for that, I'd say the majority of our students would not have had access to the internet. We also worked with finding internet providers that were inexpensive or free, just to, some of our families are in shelters or motels, wherever the case may be, and you may have 5 or 6 children that's working on the same internet provider, and that became very difficult. So we were able to not only advocate as far as the internet providers, but going into those schools and saying, hey, these students need laptops and they need internet access. And I'd say most of the parents did not know how to ask for those things and didn't know that they were entitled to those items. So they weren't able to do that for their children. So I pretty much say without Newground, our students would be a lot farther behind than they are.
Wow, that's a great story. And is what I'm hearing that our impact and some of that advocacy impacted other students who weren't also directly in the program, but maybe were in that same hotel motel?
Absolutely. Yep. Lots and lots of students, specifically in Westbury, Freeport district.
Yep.
In the school district, we had over 200 students who were displaced, and we were able to advocate on their behalfs as well. In those 2 school districts, maybe 3 or 4 families were in our program. So the remainder are not a part of Newground. And so we were able to go in and help them in that way. And we still get phone calls. We still provide school supplies. We still provide food items to those families as well.
That's great. Shannon, we have to look for ways to kind of advertise that extra impact we have over and above. And maybe we're doing that, but it seems like there's something more here we can further advertise. That's great. Thanks.
Definitely. And you know, Steve, I think another situation, so there's the impact of COVID, right? And that extra advocacy that had to happen around internet service and technology. But you know, that the reason why Evol did so well with that and could help so many was because this is what she does. It just, you know, the need has changed or shifted a little bit. And Evol, I'm just thinking about the family that you've been working to help over the past 3 or 4 weeks with transportation. And, you know, here's a family with multiple school age children. They're in a motel, hotel situation, and they've been there for a few years. And every September, the school district screws up their transportation so that these students are not in school for the first few weeks of school, or mom is laying out tons of money that she simply doesn't have. And so she's like, you know, not paying other bills so that she can get them transported to and from school so they don't fall so far behind. And it happens every year. And Evol was heavily involved with it this year, and making phone calls and going through the school district and going to the state agency that you know, is responsible for helping with the transportation issues and other issues that impact homeless students. And mom actually said to Evol in the past week, this is the fastest it's ever been taken care of. And the sole reason is because Evol was involved. Well done, Evol.
Thank you, Shannon.
Evol single-handedly changes many lives on Long Island. Good work. Any other last comments, thoughts? It's 101 or 102, so I want to be sure to make sure people get back to what they're doing, and we really appreciate everybody tuning in and joining us. And we've been recording the program because we know we heard from people who couldn't make this time or this day, and they asked us to share the program with them. So we'll be doing that so people who couldn't make it can certainly hear the information and learn about the great work that Evol is doing, and learn about the education programs and services at Newgrounds. It's our 30th anniversary year this year. We are certainly proud to be continuing to provide these services to a population that's so much in need, that's unfortunately still in need 30 years later, and growing with the impact of COVID and unemployment and the economics of the last year and a half. We know there are more families and students that are certainly going to need the help